For September the 3rd, 2020, please rise to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation given by Councilwoman Brenda Gray.
Let's bow our heads, please. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. Father God, we thank you for your many blessings that you bestow upon us. Father God, forgive us for all the things that we've done wrong. Father God, we ask you to watch over us in this meeting. Father God, please take care of our sick. Father God, thank you for everything that you've done for us, God. Bless us in this epidemic time that's going on, you God. We ask you to bless from the head of the country down to the least important person that they may think. Father God, forgive us. Forgive us for all of our sins. We ask you to have a special blessing over this meeting. Let us be cordial toward each other. Father God, let us do things that's good for the city of Avon Park, because we love the city, Father. We ask this and every blessing in our name, says. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Madam Clerk, go please call the roll.
Mayor Anderson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Spurlock?
Here.
Councilmember Gray?
Here.
Councilmember Sutherland?
Here.
Councilmember Bernard?
Here.
All are present.
Very good. First up, we'll talk about the discussion of our health insurance. We have Mr. Danny Page with us on Zoom. I'm assuming the city manager or HR would like to brief us on what's going on here.
Yes. So we started looking into health insurance renewals with Danny, I want to say back in when Mark first started in March. At that time, Danny had briefed that we would not be able to get any firm updates numbers-wise as far as what the cost would be for the future, because typically, and this is where anytime that I misquote something, Danny, please kick in and let me know. But it said it could vary from 12% up to in the mid-20s. So trying to guesstimate anything outside of 30 days would be impossible. As we got closer to the 1st of September timeframe, he was finding out that, and this was more in August, that if we stayed with Aetna, they were willing to make some concessions, so look changes to our plans, but keeping the price frame at where it's at or even lower, and offering to give us a discount of a 50% premium for the current month that we're in if we were going to stay with them. So we had an intent letter that Aetna said that we would consider staying with them, and we sent it through Jerry, and Mark signed it, and they gave us a 50% credit, approximately $16,000 for this health insurance month. But yet we still haven't, we've received a new contract for October 1, which is our new insurance year to match up with the fiscal year. And it's actually, with the changes that Danny had given us, it actually comes up less than it was for the current health year. So with that, I guess I will pass it off to Danny to brief with the sheets. I guess before I do that, and Mark and I and Danny went through these things a couple of times, because for Mark and I, it was very confusing. We're not insurance salesmen or health insurance or know anything about this stuff, so having to go section by section, line by line, and say, can you explain this, can you explain that? We don't get it. There's terminology and there's abbreviations in here we don't get. And in the long run, Danny's saying a lot of those are from Aetna, their codes, their names, their numbers. Even he doesn't get involved with that. Just columns, everything. This is this group, this is this group. Try not to get stuck on, well, what does this acronym mean? It doesn't mean anything to us or to him. It's an Aetna thing, and that's all.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
And when David was talking about what I signed with them, that we would get 50%, is I got with Jerry, and it wasn't a contract or anything. If you decide to go with somebody else, we would just have to reimburse them the $16,000. So it wasn't binding at anything, but it was date sensitive, and if we didn't sign it, we weren't going to get the 50% if you decided to stay with it.
Understood.
Correct.
Danny, do you have anything to add?
Yes. So the process, 45 days in advance of your anniversary date, which has been moved from this past year. It was December in the past. We moved it to October to accommodate your budget. It's very difficult for a municipality to put the second largest expenditure into their budget when we don't have a crystal ball to know how claims or any type of changes are going to affect the budget. So moving to October has given us a little more leeway, but in essence, we still don't get the renewal until 45 days in advance of October. Once we receive that, we review it, which we did. And then we make plans whether we're going to go to bid or we're not going to bid. We negotiate with the current carrier. We negotiate with carriers if we can as we go to bid. All in all, we received a very strong renewal from Aetna. I look back today, in the last basically 5 years, our rates and plan designs are almost exactly the same today as they were in 2015. I can't say that about any other client that I have on the books. I've been doing this for 26 years. We've been very fortunate. It has not always been that way for the city of Avon Park. For those of you that remember, many years ago, we had a black cloud that we could not move from the city of Avon Park, and our renewals were awful. And they were back-to-back awful. It was very difficult to do things that were positive for the city or for the employees. So we have finally been able to breathe some fresh air here in the last few years. And this is a very strong renewal. So moving forward with this, I was actually excited. I'm not very excited with my job usually. Usually I'm the Grim Reaper and I bring out the here's your 15% increase and how do we change plan designs to try to fit it into your budget. This year we made some very minimal plan design changes, kept basically the renewal at a 0. And then on top of that, we were offered the, if your intent is to renew with Aetna, sign this paperwork. So we've got an additional $16,000 on top of a very good renewal. Renewals usually average the 15% range. And one thing to keep in mind is that we've been going through the COVID pandemic. And so we have no idea how next year's renewal will come to us. But for now, we are looking very strong. And we just need to start doing what we can to prepare for next year, because it's going to be different. There's the folks that we use for our projections will not even project for next year, because as you know, for about 4 or 5 months, you couldn't see a dentist, you couldn't see an eye doctor, therefore you couldn't get your routine surgeries taken care of on a larger scale. You couldn't get rotator cuff surgery, you couldn't get your ACL taken care of, stuff that we take for granted here that we can usually get done in 3 or 4 days. That all got put on hold. So we feel like, obviously, as this pandemic goes past us, people are going to run out like they did to the hairdressers and to the restaurants and to the people are going to start going out to get those routine maintenance things taken care of, and it's liable to offset our renewal next year. So I don't want you to think that because we had 5 years of really strong renewals finally, that we're not going to have an adjustment to make next year. So I tried to get this flat as we could without any major disruption to the employees, without any major financial disruption to the employees. Actually, with these minor changes that we're making, the network's going to be even larger, which is a good thing for anyone that travels outside the state. It's going to be at this national network now, which is a good positive change, and still keep the rates solid at basically it's about a 0.5 point decrease in the rates overall. So we're very happy with that. I'll kind of stop there because I'll start rambling about how excited I am, but you guys may have some questions.
Council have any questions for Mr. Page?
Well, I just have a couple. You said that it's a 0 renewal, so that would affect the budget. Obviously, you wouldn't have to do any increases to the budget.
Correct.
So that right there saves us how much? I don't know what the 15%. Well, I don't know what was it, 12% or 15% you added to the budget?
It was 12%.
Okay. So Danny, on the HSA, is that when you have an HSA account, isn't it pre-tax? When
Yes, ma'am.
So, and we only have 6 people on the HSA. I was looking at these things, I mean, it was a little confusing at first. Came to the conclusion that page 1 and 2 go together. It was supposed to be
Yes.
1 page, and it was just extended into 2. And so, it made it a little simpler for me. And the one glaring thing that just keeps popping up at me is that we have an HSA program at 374 with a lower deductible than last year's, I'll call it last year, even though we're still in that fiscal year. And, you know, and then we have all these other options. How come we just don't do HSA for everybody, and everybody that wants to buy up can buy up? I mean, it just makes more sense to me only because it's $100 or so less than the next one.
Yeah, so with the majority of my clients and clients of my company, we call these like the bronze, silver, gold programs. So the bronze program would be your HSA. The silver would be your step up to a plan that has copays, and you see as we move forward, the deductible goes lower and the copays get better. So you're buying up options. With most of my clients, they would pay, in a scenario, 100% of your bronze plan. And that may work really well for some employees. The reason that health savings account, let me back up, was put in here is you had some firefighters years ago that back when the claims were really bad, that said they didn't like paying for people that were not healthy. So we devised the HSA. It was very popular in the beginning. And then you could buy up to better options. You could buy up and say, you know, I need a better copay because I have to see a specialist regularly. Well, you have the option here. We're not reducing the package of benefits to your employees, but the company would pay, the city, the company, whoever I'm dealing with, would pay 100% of the lower option or the bronze plan. And then you have the benefit of buying up if you want something fancier. I equate it to a car. If I gave you a $500 allowance, car allowance, but you said, you know, I'd really like to have a sunroof and a Bose stereo. Well, I'm still only giving you the $500 allowance and purchase up to a fancier vehicle. That's kind of the same thing here. Some folks don't need copays. Fortunately, I'm very healthy. I love health savings accounts. I love the fact that you can put money aside pre-tax. I really like how they work. But some folks have a lot of prescription drugs, or they, you know, maybe have a child that needs to be seen by a pediatrician regularly. Well, then they have the option to purchase up to a different plan. And actually, you guys have 5 plans. So you can continue to buy through 4 other platforms besides just the health savings account, which is very strong. I have very few clients that have 5 options. One of the good things we did, even getting to a rate hold, is we reduced the deductible on the HSA. It was $2,750. It would bring it down to $2,000. The out-of-pocket maximum in the past was $5,500. It would now come down to $4,500. So if you had a catastrophic illness and you had a $50,000 claim, you are on the hook for $4,500, and the insurance carrier pays the rest of your claim. So that actually saves the employee from paying more in the deductible before the out-of-pocket kicks in, and actually saves them $1,000 on the out-of-pocket, which is pretty strong. But some employees like to have more options, and that's what you guys give them by having this robust benefit package where they can buy up. A few years ago, one of your previous city managers made the decision, I guess, to pay for the mid-level plan. So like the silver option. Makes it a little more complicated with what you're going to do with the excess money between the silver option and the bronze. But in my understanding, that money was put towards their health savings account, which is fine. But it makes it a little complicated explaining benefits when you're talking to your employees during open enrollment. So anyways, if we were doing a benchmarking study and you said, what do the majority of city groups or municipalities, county-wide, whatever you want to look at the state of Florida, what do they do? they usually pay for the lower plan and let the employees buy up to another option. You guys are a little bit of a hybrid by already paying towards the mid-level plan. So I know we're all going through a lot of changes with COVID and people having to look at their budgets very closely. I just wanted to make that clear to you as to how things usually operate. I hope I'm not getting off in muddy water too much for you.
Danny, I just want to, it's confusing quite a bit from my personal experience using insurance that I've had over the years. I know that if you go to a doctor that carries your insurance, they're going to charge you the rates that they have contracted with your carrier. So even though it says on here that you have a 10% copay after your deductible, the assumption is that they're going to be paying 10% of what the doctor typically charges, but that's not usually customary. What they charge is the rate that they have for that insurance carrier. So, for example, if I go to a doctor and it's $100 flat rate, if I was going there to pay cash, it's $100, but since I have this particular insurance, I can accept that insurance, then they're going to charge me only the negotiated price that they have with that carrier, which may be $50. So then I only pay 10% of $50. So
No.
I think that right there is always kind of confusing to people when they look at this and they look at the richness or whether or not it's good or not. I'm still stuck on the HSA, and I was just going to throw it out there that, right now we've got, I want to call it small, medium, large. So we've got the medium one that everybody gets, and then for those that have HSA, they get paid the difference between the HSA and the medium one. It's, I don't know, $60, $70 amount is $88. Okay, so that goes to the person that has the HSA in cash. I was going to suggest that if we just go straight across the board with an HSA and then give every employee an additional $25 and balance it out to the straight $400, then they can use that money and apply it towards their HSA, and then anyone that wants to buy up can buy up. That's just me. I mean, to me, it makes more sense from the cost effectiveness of it. That would come to about $25,000 or so, and I'm just guessing because I don't know exactly how many employees we have. But that would yield actually a huge savings for us. And in a year where we're talking about raising taxes, I think that it would really, we're doing the best with the money that we have. Not a lot of people out there have the rich benefits that the city has, and I think that we need to hone in on what we're doing. We have so many options, and everyone has all these great options, and we're very unique in that sense, I think. So I don't know if you've done any computations to that extent. If we were to take the $15,000 savings that was it 15 or 16,000, and we're to take that and divvy that up and spread that across the employees on a global basis and let them see if they want to apply that towards an HSA, then that would be an incentive for them. I think they'd be getting like $250 a piece to do that. And then with the 25 extra every month with a $400 cap for their insurance, then that would be an extra $550 per year. So it's not peanuts. I mean, we're talking just about $750 for employees to encourage them to be HSA, which is pre-tax. It encourages savings so that when they do go to the doctor, we have it. One question I was going to ask Danny, though, is it my understanding that under routine care where it says preventive care, is that the well woman and well man exam?
Yes, so let me start over real quick before we go any further. Yes, on that question, yes. And so all of your preventive care is covered at 100% under any of these plans. Let me give you a little example and clarify that real quick though, because some people get really excited. It's well women, well child, it's your child care, it's the recommended checkups from birth to as old as we get. So obviously they change with kids to when we start having to have colonoscopies and all those things. So I'm going to use a colonoscopy as an example. Obviously the colonoscopy is covered at 100%. But if you go in for a colonoscopy and they find something, they find a polyp, they find 7 polyps, they find whatever, they don't wake you up and ask you if you would like to have those polyps removed to see if you have cancer. They immediately take those polyps and send them off. From that point now, you have a diagnosis code and it's going towards your deductible and coinsurance, regardless of any of the plans you choose in this package of benefits that you have. So I don't want to get anybody out there and say, well, I had 7 polyps removed and I got it done for free. You got your wellness checkup for free, but when they found something, there is now a diagnosis code. It would be the same with a female in a pap smear or a breast exam or anything else. It's the same thing. So just remember, yes, if you went in and had a colonoscopy and they found nothing, you just got a colonoscopy covered at 100% by your carrier. So, but no, yes, for your children, for your adult visits, all of that, wellness is encouraged. They want us to stay healthy. By all means, they'll cover them at 100%. But let's back up to one of the first statements you made, and I apologize because when y'all talk on those microphones up there, you fade in and out a little bit. So I just want to make sure we're clear. How a health savings account, one of the reasons there's a large savings. The HDHP you see up there, they're also considered a high deductible health plan. Not that they really have a higher deductible in this plan than you do in some of your other choices, but anyways, what it means is this is like old school insurance that my grandparents had. We got really spoiled in the past by co-payments. Back in the old days, there weren't co-payments. There was a deductible and there was co-insurance. And we were responsible to pay the deductible first before the co-insurance kicked in. That's how this works, okay? So the good thing is you have the contract of the carrier. Whether it's Aetna, Blue Cross, United, whoever we're with this year, next year, you have the contract of the carrier with the provider. So if the provider usually charges $100 for a visit and the carrier's contract is $50, you're responsible for $50 until you meet the deductible. The deductible on this plan is $2,000. Once the deductible's met, the plan pays at 80% and you pay 20 and get to $4,500. It makes you a consumer. So I can tell you right now, my kids laugh at me, but I know that the gas station down the street has gas for $2.09, but if I drive to the other end of town, it might be $1.99, and a lot of times I'll drive 3 more miles to get the $1.99 price because I know my truck holds 28 gallons of gas. People aren't aware of that with medical insurance. All they ever think about is I have a $10 copay, or I have a $5 copay, or I have a $50 copay. They don't understand that on the other side of that copayment is a charge that goes to the carrier and in essence back to their employer. What a HSA does is it makes us better consumers of our medical insurance. It makes you think about where you're going to get your colonoscopy. Anything you get done, this is the way we equate it, in a large building is going to have a large charge. If you can go to a freestanding facility for that colonoscopy, it's probably going to be a third as much. There are tools online, there are tools, apps that you can put on your phone. We try to educate employees during open enrollment for these that help you be a better consumer. When you get your prescription filled, you start to think about getting a generic instead of a preferred brand name drug because the prescriptions are much cheaper as well if you look at it that way. We obviously tell everyone about the commercials that you see now on TV to get Good RX. If you're in an HA, you should have the Good RX app on your phone. Saves you an unbelievable amount of money. It makes it a consumer-driven health plan instead of I'm spoiled and I know it's only $30 to get this prescription filled, and you find out later on that that prescription is actually $690 and that's going to the plan, and sooner or later that is affecting our renewal. And then when Danny is standing up in front of the group trying to explain the benefits and why they went up 25%, nobody wants to hear that. HSAs are the best plans in the world to help your employees start to begin to understand how much healthcare truly is today. It's expensive. I'm not saying we don't want you to go get taken care of. By all means, your wellness program, everything's covered at 100%. We're encouraging you to go. You go to the urgent care center, it's much less expensive than going to the emergency room. Again, that's because the emergency room is tied to a hospital. It's going to cost more. Go to an urgent care center and it's only $50. We're encouraging you. We're encouraging you to use the Care Here facilities at the Walgreens and at the CVS pharmacies. Those things are great. Now, the big push is for virtual visits and they work tremendously. You can open your mouth, you can turn on your phone, you can show the picture of the back of your throat to your doctor and he can say, yep, that's strep, and he can have your prescription waiting for you at CVS when you get there. They're a wonderful tool. You guys have that tool offered to your employees. But again, let's back up, and I just want to make sure you understood that You get the contracted rate for your services when you go to a primary care doctor, a specialist, to the hospital, whatever. And then once you meet that $2,000 deductible, your plan kicks in where they pay 80%, you pay 20, you meet the 4,500. So you always know $4,500 is your worst case scenario if you have to have, God forbid, open heart surgery. And that's what putting that money aside pre-tax is for. You put that money aside pre-tax. There's all kinds of things you can use it for today, your glasses, your teeth, those things. But most smart consumers keep that aside for if they ever have to satisfy that $2,000 or $4,500 maximum. It's always there. If you don't use it this year, unlike a flexible spending account in an HSA, a health savings account, that money rolls over. It's always yours for next year. It continues to build interest. Rolls over again the following year. And it rolls over until you turn 65. You can pay for anything, well, I won't say anything. Most medical expenses you can pay for out of that pre-tax HSA account. If you leave the company, God forbid you lose a good employee and they leave and move somewhere else to the Highlands County, that money is still theirs. That money is theirs. The account is separate from the insurance program. We're looking at the insurance program on this sheet of paper, but the health savings account is truly an account. And they can participate in the HSA that's at Highlands County and still utilize that money to pay for their medical expenses. But if you pull the money out for anything else, your air conditioner goes out on your house and you pull that money to pay for getting the air conditioner repaired, it's very similar to pulling money out of your 401k early. You're going to get taxed excessively for pulling that medical expensed money out early. Is that clear?
My math was wrong. It wasn't 600, it was $300 per year. If we were to give an additional 25 in cash and the split was 16,000. If that was split, I'm basing it on 61 employees. I don't know how many we have, and I don't know if we hire new people, you know, how that would work. But to me, it's for the ones that are here because that's who's here and that's who's kind of this is based off of. I don't know those details. So, you know, $500 is a decent little savings account that we can help with our employees get started on the HSA. I think it would be a great incentive to do that. Split up that $60,000 to $25 a month, and it still comes out less than the regular insurance that we use. So, the renewal one, it comes out at annual amount. It's let's see, 371. Yeah. Renewal. So if we go for plans that you're saying, what would the monthly or the annual amount be? Well, we have to figure out how many employees we have.
Currently, we have 67 employees, 3 of which do not carry the insurance.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Sure.
First of all, I want to let everybody know that I agree with them when they said when you're on Zoom, you can hardly any word that the people sitting up there have to say. It's not very clear. It's very difficult. So I understand where people are that come out here and look at our council meeting and say the same thing. So it's very terrible to understand. But with that being said, I have had HSA accounts as well. I now have an HRA account. They work fantastic because of the fact that they allow you to go ahead and decide what type of expenses you want to spend and what type of a year. And the fact that they do carry over is a wonderful, wonderful option. And unfortunately, it seems like I always run out of the HRA by September. So I'm kind of like on my own after that, but that's just because I'm a senior citizen compared to most of you up there. But I'll just make one other comment. I think that it's about GoodRx because of the fact that I run out of HRA money every year. I've used GoodRx many, many, many times. And the secret with GoodRx is not to get a particular card. The card is a general deduction. The secret for GoodRx is actually go online and pull the prescription up that you want, and they'll give you a little printout for the expenses at which location is cheaper, whether it's one of the drugstores or Walmart or whatever. And you can save even more than 50% more than one if you get a card. Sometimes it's down to $10 or $20 for 90 days. So I highly recommend GoodRx itself. online individually for each medication. Danny, I appreciate you bringing that up. And I definitely agree 100% about health savings account. I think that the city should be responsible to paying maybe even the bronze option or something like that, and let the employees then let them manage their own accounts. And some will do better and some won't, but everybody's different. And to give everybody a silver or a gold account may be a little bit too expensive at this time with the type of situation going on with COVID and people out of jobs, and the fact that we may look into raising taxes. So those are all my comments. Hope you all could hear me, and I'll do my best to hear the rest of you. Thank you.
So you're loud and clear, Jim.
Okay.
I'll do some mathematical computations right now and you tell me if I'm right, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just say we go with the HSA at 374 and let's round it off to 400 because we could give the employees back $25 per month. So then that comes in, and I'm basing this off of 65 employees. I'm just giving it that number. Like it could be more. You can do 70 if you'd rather do 70. If you'd rather do 70.
Probably would be better, yeah.
Okay, so it would be 70 times, what's the amount? Well, okay, 70 times
The 400.
times 400. Right, that comes to 28,000. And then we take the 16,000 that's being given back to us, right? So plus 16,000. That comes to $44,000. Multiply that times 12. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, yeah. So, I lost my train of thought here. So,
Divided 16,000.
yeah. 60,000 and 12.
To get a monthly portion of that.
Oh, I thought that was on a monthly basis. Well, that's right, because the 300 would be on a yearly basis. Right? So,
Please excuse me, which plan are you looking at, Maria, as far as the HN options?
what I'm looking
Again, I'm
at.
not an insurance expert.
I think the Maria and Danny correct us that OAEPO 2000
Yes,
would be the HSA for the renewal. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay, OAEPO, that's one you're looking at? Okay, thank you.
And Jim, if you look at the green ones, that's the ones I've recommended that will match as closely as possible to the old plans. And I don't
Okay,
want to make this real confusing, but Aetna did away with the old plans. So what we tried to do is match with their new series of plans. It was something to do with the ACA. The carriers do it all the time. And this is as close to apples as I could get,
okay,
was the ones you see in green on the first and second page of attachments that were sent to you.
so the blue ones aren't available at all?
No, well, no.
Okay,
The only blue ones that are still available exactly like the old ones, if you go to the second page, you'll see the two OAMC plans,
yes, sir.
and the two green ones that are next to it are exactly the same as the two blue ones. And
Okay.
those are plans that that have the absolute largest network in the country. And some people just wanted a larger network, so we left those as buy-up options where you could continue to move up if you wanted to.
Okay,
The three that you see on the first page are the ones that I've recommended to keep the rates as close, the plans as close, everything is, there's no such thing as apples to apples in the medical insurance world, but that's as close as I could keep them to the same. I did some basic math earlier as well of the shift of folks from the HSA and the, what I call the silver plan, and then adding in the half a month of September savings that I've never heard of before. That was kind of a neat offer from Aetna. And I came up with around $59,000, but that I calculated 60 employees, not 70. So it's actually going to be north of that a little bit as far as savings goes, if I'm correct. That's significant.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Danny,
On the, I guess it's the OAMC 1500, is that the one that you are recommending? Suggesting that we get?
Okay. So on the very first page of attachments that were,
Well, he's not recommending anything.
What number is it?
I'm recommending all of those to mirror the ones as close as we can to your old plans. Anything in green on the first 2 pages.
What's the number on it?
It was-
2,000.
2,000.
Oh, okay. Give me the first one.
All right.
I know, I have a number on it.
Is there any more questions for Danny?
But Danny, Mark Schrader got a question because it just follow up to what one council member just asked, said, were you looking at the 1,500 under your renewal red one or green one? That it would be the most equivalent to the current plan that the city is currently providing to their employees. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So anything in green on that first and second page that's obviously side by side with the blue, we just tried to, each one of those categories matches the plan to its left. So the HN option 2750, the closest we could get to it for another HSA would be the OAEPO 2000. And then as we move to what I would call a silver level plan, which would be the plan that the city was paying 100% of, HN option 1500 is now equivalent to the OAEPO 1500. And then HN option 500 to the OAEPO 500. There are going to be some minor differences as you come down, but that's as close as apples to apples as I could get. What I was suggesting to kind of as a benchmark for what other municipalities and other companies do in our location is pay for the HSA and then let the employees still have the option to buy up to the OAEPO 1500 or the OAEPO 500 or even the one of the two on the back side, the back page.
Now, which one is the HSA? What number
The
is
very
that?
first green column.
Yeah, it says HDHP next to it. That's just
Okay,
code from Aetna. I'm sorry, but that's your HSA. That's your health savings account is your very first one.
okay. So I do.
If you look, they're very similar, but they're not exact.
I multiplied 400 times 70 and got 28,000. All right. I multiplied 28,000 times 12 and got 336,000.
Mhm.
Right. Then I added, no,
You took 300, right?
hang on.
That's per month or per year?
No, that's per year because I multiplied it times 12. So I multiplied 28 times 12, got 336,000. Am I wrong?
No,
Let's start over. Okay, let's just say it's $400 a month. We need to save $400 a month. You multiply that times 70, right? All right. You come up with $28,000 per month. Okay. Then you multiply that times 12. Come up with 336,000. Okay. Then I added the 16,000. Is that what's going to get reimbursed? Or was it 15,000?
no, it's a little over 16,000 and change, like 16,032 or something.
Okay, let's call it 16,000
Okay.
plus 16,000. I'm getting spam. Hang on. No, I'm adding it in because this is going to be the additional to put into their fund. So we're adding it in. So it was 336,000 plus 16 because that's one little payment. And you come up with 352,000 and then divide that. 352,000. 352,000 divided by 12, and you come up with 29,333 per month. And right now we're paying what?
We're currently paying 31,075.
So when I multiply that number that I came up with times 12 to finally get the yearly amount, it comes out to 352,000, which is still less than the renewal rate at the middle program. And that's with employees, but my calculations is with employees getting $300 a year, which is $25 a month, plus dividing up some of that 16,000 per employee. If that wanted to be a lump sum up at the beginning, or people might leave, so you may not want to do it that way. But if you were to calculate that $500 or so, and you just divide that by 12, and that's what they would get throughout the year as a deposit into their health savings account.
So the $88 difference in the current
Will become 25.
would become 25 and with the new insurance year.
That's how how I see it. I mean, that's the rest of the council side, but the way I see it, that is going to be the insurance that we provide to our employees. If they don't like it and they want something richer that they would prefer to have, then they can buy up. And they can use some of the money out of that HSA. Everyone's gonna get the HSA money, whether
Hold on.
they get HSA, but everyone will get that piece of
Okay.
money.
But Danny, go ahead.
You can only participate in an HSA and put money aside pre-tax if you are in that OAEPO high deductible health plan.
Right, so then they're.
That's your only sticky point. So if they want to participate in that and they get that extra $25, great. Otherwise, if they move up and let's say they want to buy up to one of the other options, you cannot put the $25 in a health savings account for them. Now your finance department has to decide where they're going to put that $25. Are they just going to, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing I want to make clear. They can't have that money unless they're in that particular insurance.
I think $500 sounds a pretty good incentive to do the HSA. I mean, it'll save us at the end of the day, you know, quite a bit of money. So I
The
just,
benefit is they have every choice in the book.
right, and yeah, they can go, and then you can decide, you know, or they can decide depending on, I don't know what open enrollment.
Dan may have
but
to
if
make
they
the
want something out
calculation.
of green, you know, that's up to you guys how you work that out.
Okay, Mayor, can I just
Go
add
ahead.
something? I'm just looking at it as an employee. Obviously, they're not going to see it this way, but if they wanted to stay in the current plan, which will be the renewal to 1,500, and our CPA may be able to look at it, but if they couldn't put more money in, I'm looking at they would have to pay a pay period about $41 to go from the 374 to the 462. Because most of them are going to want to stay with the copay, because I get what Danny's saying, but most of our employees aren't going to get it. What do you explain? I'm not a decision maker. I'm just telling you that most, I think, are going to pay up, and it's probably going to cost them somewhere around $58 a paycheck, because we get 26 paychecks, I believe, David, to go to the highest 500 one. So, and I'll point this out because I was shocked we only have two in. One in spouse and two children, so they're not even getting that because most of our employees cannot. That's more than most of the paychecks. So.
Is that employed with children still employed by the city?
I'm sorry.
Is the one that has the children still employed by the city? So, I mean, we get $400 towards insurance.
Well, like right now, the one of the current employees that I can think of has a child that he's covering every paycheck comes out for him $190 covered. So it seems like I don't know. And that's really devastating for my paycheck to have to pay that for her insurance. But there's nothing that we can do with this.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I have to look at it from the resident's point of view, right? And I think that we have to put ourselves in their shoes. I don't know, I mean, granted, because we have so many people, we can have these low rates, right? If we had more employees, I guess it would be even lower. And I know that it's low mostly because we have a lot of healthy firefighters. You know, we don't have any smokers. I mean, I know that that's one of the reasons why it's down. But, you know, it's tough for everyone out there right now. And I don't know that we can validate providing a richer, more enhanced, or more money for our employees when 60% of the people out in our community don't even have a job. And I don't expect them to foot the bill for an uptick in an insurance rate. If anything, I think it shows a lot of financial restraint on our part to do the best we can for the residents that actually pay the bill. So that's why I like the HSA. I just think also it creates an incentive for better usage of your insurance. It has well woman, well man. It's all within the network, and to me, it's just kind of a no-brainer.
Just to be clear, if we're devoting $400 per employee, if they decide to go with the second plan, that's only $62 difference. So would they have to basically come up with an extra $62 per month?
Well, it's $29 a pay period, because I figured it up. If you gave them the extra money, they would be paying $29 a pay period to move up to the second.
That's lunch.
Got it.
If you go to Rudy Tuesday, that's lunch.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments, audience?
Yep.
Please state your name and address.
Manuel Casal.
Maybe, but not maybe. My name is Daniel Corzo. I'm a retiree in the city. I'm not here to say anything from the employees, but what you're asking what you do is that department. Really notice. I would caution against it. But if I understand, Mr. Chairman correctly, it's involving a pay. Is that correct?
So what?
A pay cut, it's a benefit, and,
But
you
if
know,
you're going to increase their costs.
but alternatively, if the costs go up, which they were going to, and they will likely go up next year because of COVID, then the taxpayer has to foot the bill. So how do you know, you just have to balance those two.
So the main rental knows, and those employees that go in the regular, program, so indication that they like, in the sense that very little notice, we would push now, and then increase the cost, that is substantial. I think that's not such a notice, it's not correct. If you want to, the next year, by all means, do it. Employees have to implement this, make a decision now. They have no, I think they shall be there. I would, I don't think it's correct. I think it's, such a notice, and the amount that people have, it's not,
Thank you. Is there any other questions?
I can just add that I did the math, and with the $400, we were talking $29 to go up to the 1,500 plan. It'd be about $58 a paycheck to go up to the 500. Just mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, if we go with the recommended plan, paid for forward, and you keep everything as close to apple as possible, we still save money. Every month, roughly, quite a bit. No, I mean, there's nothing that says we absolutely have to change at all.
No, I mean, the 16,000 that I said, I just thought that would be a nice incentive to put towards the HSA. I mean, if you want to save more money, then you can save 16,000. At the end of the day, I have to be able to look at, the people that work on Main Street and say to them, we did the best thing that we could for our employees, but not for you. So look, I think that we have an I mean, I just think that if I'm asked by someone on Main Street, why do you pay so much more for insurance when you could have gotten the lower rate? It's a disservice to that individual that pays taxes. Yeah, I'm talking about citizens. I'm not talking about employees. I know that what we have is a very rich program. I know that our benefits surpass the county, the sheriff, Sebring, Lake Placid, Sun and Lake, Lake Wales, even Tampa in some areas. We have some of the richest benefits around. And I'm not saying that the employees got to pay. What I'm saying is we need to make it fair for the situation that we're in. I would have done this even if we were doing a flush year and there were no other issues. I'm just looking at the angle of the less we impose on our tax base, the better off this community is. And it has to be validated one way or the other. So I understand what you're saying, just $29. It's just $29. Next year it might be just $60 and the following.
Right. Well, that's a decision just like the other rate you make every year.
Right, but I don't think we should raise taxes to pay benefits.
This would be a small portion of what we have to do.
Well, but so if we need taxes for infrastructure and other things that are in dire need, they still have an insurance plan. It's still paid for by the city. They get an incentive of money to go into it. I know it won't make everyone happy, but we've been down this road before. It's been used before, and then every year the city offers all of these different options. It just opens the floodgates. I think that we just have to have one set insurance rate, and then let everyone else decide what they want if they want to buy up. I don't know that any one of the 46 or so that have the current medium thing are going to buy up. If it's offered 100% right now, of course they're going to take it. So, if it ends up that the HSA is available, we'll be curious to see how many people actually, submit to that.
Well, if people went down, if we funded it at 462 and then they decided to go to 374, the remainder would still go into it.
Right.
There's still a huge benefit there.
Yeah.
If there's one.
Right. But I think that, educating our employees in that realm, I think is a really smart thing to do as well. So I'm just trying to look at a way to not put more of a burden on the residents regardless of where we need to put other money in the budget. You know, we have to attack each single item on our budget individually, and this is one of those, and it's like you said, it's one of the biggest expenses that we have.
Well, I think everybody has a pretty good handle on the options that are there, so if there's no more comments, we'll.
Just one other comment, if next year we get a reimbursement, Danny, do you see a reimbursement next year at MDU with Aetna?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you foresee another reimbursement? Do you foresee another reimbursement next year? That's like an iffy thing, right?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've never seen anything like this. Several carriers are doing similar, but I've never seen anything like this. Government got involved with major medical benefits a few years past. One of the laws or rules that they passed were that insurance carriers could only make so much money, and then they have to give what we call MLR rebates back, medical loss ratio rebates. And I don't know if this was a way to start softening the medical loss ratio rebates, because no one has been going to the doctor for normal services over the last 4 months.
Right.
And they want to outrun what the government's going to force them to give back to you guys in the future. I don't know. This is interesting. So I honestly do not foresee this again next year. If anything, because no one can project what COVID's going to do is causing for us, we're liable to be in more of a hot water situation next year, trying to figure out what's going to fit into the budget.
So there's no guarantee that we'll have the same type of thing next year, but it does depend on the usage and the health of our employees. That is one big factor in getting that reimbursement though, right?
Absolutely. Or
Okay.
getting a favorable renewal period.
Right, so if the employees are healthy and, you know, they don't go get their bunions done or something that's unnecessary,
Right.
then the rates stay low and then everyone benefits at the end. I think it's kind of an incentive as well to see that we get a reimbursement. There's no guarantee, and there's no guarantee that I may not be here next year. I don't know about you guys, but, you know, we don't know. The next council may decide to go someplace else and you know, 16 out of the budget. Me, I would just wait and see what happens then to decide whether or not that happens. But I don't want employees to think if this ends up going broke like I think it may. I don't want them to think that there's going to be another 16,000 next year. Right?
All right, is there any further comment? Anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the OAEPO 2000 HDHP, also known as the HSA, at $400 per employee. That takes the HSA, and to split the reimbursement proceeds of $16,000. We haven't decided how that's going to be split. We can't do that two times. Let me wait for that motion second. Okay, let's wait for that motion second. I'll just make the motion on the HSA, $400 for HSA employees.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on that?
I have one question,
Go ahead.
because I couldn't quite hear. Was she, were you offering the AOMC 2000 with the HSA?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
OAEPO 2000 HD.
Right, okay. Got it.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I got one question.
Go ahead.
The 16, now, if we go with this money that you just described, what would happen with the 16,000?
We haven't decided yet.
Oh,
I took that out.
okay, got it.
If there's no further questions, we'll call the roll.
Mayor Anderson,
No.
Deputy Mayor Spurlock.
Yes.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
Councilmember Bernard.
Yes,
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, is there another motion with the $16,000?
We need to figure that out only because of it's going to be pre-tax, and only the ones that can benefit of that is an HSA recipient. So if we just take that money, it would have to be after taxes if we split that amongst all the employees that are currently in enroll with our insurance, right?
Why can't you just apply it as a credit to each employee?
You could. But what I'm asking is, if you have an HSA, if those employees could get it as an HSA contribution pre-tax, and then everyone else would have to pay taxes on it.
Okay.
That's why, I think that's.
Is that legal?
That would be a payroll nightmare.
Okay. Well, from a payroll standpoint, what is a good option on how to divvy up the 16,000?
If you're getting the credit for the health insurance, if you wanted to just say this is the credit that we received and everybody except again 3 employees in the city have the health insurance. So if you wanted to give that to them instead of an HSA or deposit into their account, and divide it up between all the people that have the insurance, say here you go, it gets taxed. Because again, another counter to what you're saying is we wouldn't know, we'd have to sit on this money until the end of open season when you determine which employees were actually taking the HSA. So the 16,000, instead of being divvied up 64 ways, once it's all said and done, because the 16,000 get divvied up 35 ways. Because less people want to be in the HSA and they go, I'm going to pay the $29 because I need the better health insurance. I don't want an HSA. So now we benefit the people that are in the HSA. If you take that 16,000 and say, well, whoever's left in it, you get the benefit of the kitty. Well, in just like the discussion was, well, now you're penalizing those people that say, I need the better insurance. I can't go with this one because ultimately it will cost me more money in the long run if I have dependents. Or if I'm a healthy person and go, I can see the doctor twice a year. It's going to be a windfall for me, but not for the person that has a couple of kids and.
So why don't we wait until after open enrollment?
No, we can, but that's where the whole, how do you divvy it up? What
Yeah,
is
so
the
I
fair
think that
divvy?
without holding anything to the money and not tying it anything just yet, we just set it aside until open enrollment is done and we go from there.
The amount that you would lose in paying tax on it, I don't think is going to be that significant.
It may not, but we're not allowed to give bonuses to employees. Remember, that's one of the things that we can't do, no such thing as a raise. So maybe that money could go into the buyback program. Everyone benefits from that.
Or you can just divide it up and fund it instead of $400, fund it at whatever that divided out number is.
You mean adding 16,000 to the HSA? There again, it would be the ones that get the HSA and get the benefit of it and not anyone else.
Well, they can still apply it to a higher plan if they like.
The point is that the HSA is still cheaper that by having that with all the employees on that. And if they want to buy it up, they buy it up. I think it's a philosophical difference that you and I have. What you want to do is contribute 60,000 and apply it towards the medium range insurance plan.
Just let them choose however they want to.
Well,
That's the point.
But I think what Danny was saying is if we take that money to try and apply it towards their insurance, we could only put it in the HSA. I don't know that we could say, hey, Maria, you wanted to buy up to the double diamond plan, and it's going to be another $80 per month for you. So therefore, we're going to pay your next 3 months premium increases. How you could do that? I mean, it's still before taxes that ultimately the city's paying this, but how through accounting, I mean, we would have to really look into that to see legally if we could do that.
What I was getting at is instead of us applying, giving them $400 for insurance, we give them $419, which would make up that difference. And now if they're using it on a higher plan, then they're still gonna have to come up with something to add to the higher plan. But if they're going into the HSA, whatever that leftover is because we're gonna have leftover as it is already. Correct. So it would just be $19 extra of a leftover. Would that not be simple? And do the same purpose?
so you're dividing 16,000
By 70, and then divided by 12, roughly $19, whatever that is, whatever it is. 18, 20, 22, whatever it is. Doesn't that do the
I mean,
same
that does,
thing?
it does, but at the end of the day, we just have to make sure that it's not allowed as a bonus, that if it's applied towards the insurance, then it's tagged in a certain
Well,
way.
it's exactly what we're doing already, because you're already kind of giving a bonus as it is, because you're going above the 374, so
Right.
this
Okay.
just adds $19.
And that does away with the 16.
Yeah.
As
And of
long
course,
as-
it's a one-time thing, because we use it every year. not-
Right, well, that's fine, that's fine. I mean, that way the money does get spent and it gets up across the board. Otherwise, it would have been 200, 50 or
And
so.
then you're still
per-
benefiting the HSA people like you wanted to do, but then it also benefits people who don't have it.
And they don't have to have an agency account.
Right.
But it will be after that, so it's gonna be that kind of little percentage. So we're talking $12 and $10.
I mean, I don't think they're gonna 50% tax bracket.
No, but it's, you know, something. It's not anything else, right?
Yep.
It's 17%.
Okay, so in order to accomplish that,
But we still have to wait because,
because
did you say something about 70 employees or was it 65? I mean, is it gonna be based off of what we have
We
right
can-
now?
Currently, as we stand today, we have 60 staff.
Okay.
So depending on what we hire in the future, we could go as high as 78.
so wouldn't you want to base it off of?
It should be based off of the employees that are very open and
Right,
funded.
whenever the decision is made, your numbers stand at tax, and that's the employees that would get the deal.
Agreed.
That's fine.
Okay.
Oh.
In order to accomplish that, we just need to make a new motion.
Okay, I make a motion that after open enrollment, we take the $16,000 for the employees of open enrollment of all insured employees and provide them with a percentage equal to all of them out of the $16,000 that are available from the reimbursement, 16,000 something, I don't remember what. That's it. Does that make sense?
That's sufficient.
Yeah, the credit, yeah.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions?
What are you gonna call
credit. Insurance credit. Call it insurance credit.
it? Well,
It's,
The city attorney wants us to call it.
call it a start.
It's an insurance credit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Spurlock,
Yes.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes,
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes,
Councilmember Bernard.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate your time.
Can I bring up a couple other things?
what about the dental vision?
Yep, two things. One real quick before that. We'd like to start open enrollment on either September 11th or September 14th and hold it open through the week to the 18th. So David has time to, we're going to create some payroll stuffers that David can put in the payroll on September 10th. Is everybody okay with us doing a September 11th through the 18th? We're going to do a virtual as well as a phone bank enrollment. Is that good with everyone?
I don't have a problem with it.
I'm okay with it.
Yes,
Yep.
Good. We gotta get going. And then the last thing, which is very good news again, our Guardian Dental and Vision renewed with a 0 rate increase. And then they also offered a 24-month rate guarantee. So we will actually have the same rates for basically like 3 years, which is really strong. Part of that's due to COVID, because again, no one could go get their teeth cleaned or get their eyes checked for a few months. But for them to extend that for a 24-month is what I recommend. They also did make another offer of 12 months and then a kickback basically. And it's a 1 month premium credit and a 1 month rate guarantee. I mean, a 1 year rate guarantee. I don't going to benefit the employees because again, we don't know how COVID's going to affect dental and vision moving into the future. I'm sure there's a barrage of folks trying to get crowns fixed and teeth fixed and cleaned and everything else right now. So we're liable to have what we could be looking at a really large rate increase next year. But if we go into the 2 year rate guarantee, we should be golden. But that's just my recommendation. It's totally up to you guys.
I'll make a motion. We go ahead and go with the 2 year rate for the dental and vision.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Spurlock,
Yes.
Councilmember Gray,
yes,
Councilmember Sutherland,
yes,
Councilmember Bernard.
Yes,
Passes unanimous.
Very good.
Thank you. Any other questions for me?
Thanks, Danny. Great job.
Thank you. If y'all need me, let me know.
All righty. Next up, we have the draft historic building ordinance. Gary?
Yes, so we discussed previously the issue of historic preservation and your order that we demolish the Wild building. Did some research on it, looked into it, made a draft for future ordinance as you requested, try and bring those two code sections that seem a little contradictory together and provide more flexibility for you with regard to your own buildings. And the ordinance is in front of you, but before we take up the ordinance, and I'm not asking you for passage tonight, just but they're having a planning and zoning board meeting next week. And two things I'd like to propose is, number one, we have to, this ordinance, if you want to move forward with it, needs to be recommended. You know, we have to have a recommendation from the P&Z in order to take it up. It's a land use type of ordinance. We're making a modification there. The second thing is, the way it's the code stands now, I think there's a good argument that can be made that the P&Z has to give you a recommendation one way or the other on the Wild building before you can demolish it. So I ask that you send that over to them to consider. That's not binding to you, it's just a recommendation, but the code requires it, so I don't want to miss that procedure the way it stands now. So two things. First, like send over the Wild building information to the P&Z so that they can make a recommendation as to whether it should be demolished or not under their code section. The second thing is we need to have them consider this amendment and give you a recommendation on that.
Okay. Do we have enough time to get that on the agenda for the 8th, I believe?
They were asking me about that today. So I think they're still okay on it.
Okay. All right, well, we'll definitely push to put that on the agenda for them. If I understood you correctly, I was having some trouble hearing you, but we would be okay to go ahead and approve this tonight, is that what you said?
Yeah, they're just recommendations, you know, on both of them, but we have to follow our own procedures.
I see.
So they have to give us a recommendation, is that what you're saying?
For the Wild building as it sits right now.
So the P&Z board have to give us a recommendation. Is that what you said?
That's what he said.
Okay, that's what I was writing down.
He's saying that the P&Z board has to give us a recommendation in order to carry out the law. And then he's asking for permission if we like this language to go ahead and put it in the ordinance. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as I understand this correctly, the property owner would have to agree in order for the property to be deemed historic. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And we intend on using the National Registry of Historic Buildings. But all of those buildings, if they're not owned by the city or the CRA, then the individual owners, we would have to go to them and ask for permission.
Let me just clarify that. That's the way I'm proposing it, is that has to have has to be approved by the property owner.
Okay.
It's not exactly clear that that's true with the existing codes.
Yeah.
The existing what?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I completely understand the property owner's point of view. If they don't want to be bound by additional circumstances, and yeah, of course, that would be a benefit to them. And as far as the city is concerned, we're obviously not going to have any issues getting permission from ourselves to do with the building as we wish.
I think that the
I don't see a problem.
prevalence, I think that the concept is that if you want to apply for historic grants, you are in private property, you can't get it unless you're historic.
Of which there has to be very few.
Yeah.
There has to be very few historic buildings that meet the criteria that haven't been altered. that-
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to refurbish it back to its original design, that would be up to them. It's so expensive.
But you're gonna have a person who's very motivated to do that. not gonna be a
This kind of
haphazard, yeah,
motivation.
exactly.
Let me be clear, by the way, if we get a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board for the ordinance, it has to come back to you for 2 readings anyway. So it can be taken up. But if we get once we get a recommendation back from the Planning and Zoning on demolishing the WOW building, whether they'd like to see it or not like to see it, your order is to go ahead and proceed forward with it. So that's the only thing that's holding us up, is getting that recommendation to follow the procedure.
Okay,
So if you want to hear it again, then let us know.
no, I mean, I don't. No. Did anyone have any changes or issue with the ordinance?
No, I couldn't read it because I just called for the city and I think so. So whatever you guys decide is okay. Whatever you guys decide is okay with me.
Okay,
I would like more time because I can't read this and have time enough to put it
Well,
all on my computer.
it has to come before us twice anyway.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I don't have any problems thus far. All right, you have your permission, Jerry? Having said
I'm
that,
sorry, I couldn't hear what was said. Is that,
you have your permission, go ahead with it.
okay, then I would ask Mark if there's somebody over there could put together a package about the WOW building to send over to them. And then I will send the ordinance over to Central Florida Planning Council for them to put on the agenda.
Okay.
Nope, okay.
Do we have anything else for the good of the city? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned.